This is my ranking of free games that I've played based purely on my personal experience. Each one is placed from masterpiece down to trash, depending on how fun they are and how fair they feel without spending money. Let's get straight into the list. The murder of Sonic the Hedgehog caught me off guard because I expected a quick joke game, but it turned into a clever mystery adventure with a surprising amount of charm. I liked how the train setting kept every conversation moving while the different Sonic characters bounced off each other in funny ways. The visual novel style stayed simple, yet the small gameplay sections helped break up the dialogue enough to stop things from feeling slow. I also spent a lot of time noticing little references connected to older Sonic games, which made the whole experience feel made for longtime fans. The soundtrack added a relaxed mood during quieter scenes, then switched energy whenever the mystery became serious. By the time the final case wrapped up, this landed easily in my masterpiece tier. League of Legends felt overwhelming during my first few matches because every champion had different abilities, item builds, and roles that I needed to understand quickly. After spending more time with it, I started seeing why so many people stay hooked on the game for years. I liked how each battle could suddenly shift direction after a single team fight or smart play near the end. Trying new champions also kept the experience fresh, since every character changed how I approached matches. Some games became intense back-and-forth struggles that lasted much longer than I expected, especially when both teams were evenly matched. Even after losing difficult rounds, I still wanted to jump into another match and test different strategies. The mix of teamwork, map control, and constant pressure places this game securely in my excellent tier. The Sims 4 gave me mixed feelings because the character creator and emotion system were much better than I expected, but the actual world felt far smaller than earlier games in the series. I spent a lot of time customizing my sim and changing little details around the house, yet the experience became repetitive once I started exploring everything else. I missed being able to freely move around a larger neighborhood without constant interruptions and loading screens. Many activities and features that I remembered from older Sims games were strangely absent, which made the game feel incomplete after several hours. Even so, I still liked watching different moods affect conversations and daily routines since it added personality to each interaction. Despite its missing features, this still settles quite nicely into my good tier. Counter-Strike 2 immediately reminded me why this series stayed popular for so many years, because every round felt tense even when nothing major was happening. I liked how simple the main objective was, yet the matches became deeply strategic once teams started coordinating utility, map control, and timing together. The gunplay also felt sharp enough that every mistake mattered, especially during close final rounds where one surviving player could completely change the result. I spent plenty of time learning maps, testing weapons, and trying to predict enemy movement before pushing into dangerous areas. The updated smoke grenades added another layer to fights since they could block vision in more realistic ways and even react to explosions. Even after frustrating losses, I kept wanting another match almost immediately. This easily belongs in my masterpiece tier. Warframe felt chaotic during my early hours because the game kept introducing new systems, planets, missions, and upgrades faster than I could properly learn them. After spending more time with the combat and movement, everything started flowing together in a much smoother way. Flying through levels with jumps, slides, and wall runs made even basic missions feel exciting instead of repetitive. I also liked collecting different Warframes since each one changed my abilities and fighting style in noticeable ways. The game offered a huge amount of weapons, crafting systems, and activities without forcing me to spend money just to progress. Some mechanics were definitely confusing at first, especially the upgrade menus, but the gameplay itself kept pushing me forward. The massive amount of content and fast combat easily placed this game within my great tier. Marvel Rivals kept me interested because the matches were fast, chaotic, and filled with characters that actually felt different from one another instead of simple reskins. I spent a lot of time switching between heroes just to test their abilities and see how certain team combinations work during fights. Some characters were easier to learn, while others took real practice before I started understanding their movement and attack patterns properly. I also liked how the destructible maps changed battles since blocked paths could suddenly open during heavy combat. The third-person gameplay felt strange at first, but after several matches, it started fitting the larger superhero style much better than I expected. Even though some fights became visually messy and unbalanced, the variety of heroes and constant action still placed this game in my good tier. Apex Legends became much more exciting once I learned how important teamwork and positioning were during longer matches. I liked that every legend had abilities that could help the squad, without making the gunplay feel secondary to the character skills. The movement also felt smooth during fights, especially when sliding down hills, climbing walls, or escaping dangerous areas while the circle kept shrinking. One thing I kept appreciating was the ping system because it made communication easy even with random teammates who never used microphones. The map design also stayed interesting across many matches since every location felt detailed and dangerous in different ways. Some early rounds could end quickly because of bad loot luck, but the tense final circles usually made up for it. This game easily lands within my great tier. Path of Exile kept throwing new mechanics at me during the opening hours, but that complexity became the exact reason I stayed hooked for so long. I spent a huge amount of time experimenting with skill gems, passive tree paths, and different loot combinations just to see how powerful I could make each character build. The dark atmosphere also helped the game stand apart because every area felt dangerous, brutal, and packed with enemies waiting around every corner. Combat stayed satisfying thanks to the constant stream of loot and the feeling of slowly becoming stronger after difficult fights. I also liked that the game offered so much content without constantly pushing me towards spending money just to keep progressing. Even after making mistakes with my character builds, I still wanted to start fresh and try new ideas. This easily belongs in my excellent tier. Rocket League looked simple when I first started playing, but I quickly realized there was a huge skill gap hiding behind the basic idea of cars playing soccer. Hitting the ball at the right angle, using boost properly, and reacting fast during aerial plays took much more practice than I expected. I also liked that teamwork mattered heavily because random chasing usually led to easy goals for the other side. Matches became far more exciting whenever everyone rotated properly and passed the ball instead of trying to score alone. The short match length also made it easy for me to keep playing just one more game for hours without noticing the time passing. Even losing streaks somehow kept me motivated to improve my timing and positioning. The addictive gameplay and skill depth placed this game solidly into my great tier. Team Fortress 2 kept making me laugh, even during chaotic matches, because every class had its own personality, playstyle, and ridiculous moments during battles. I spent a lot of time switching between classes depending on what my team needed, and that constant variety stopped matches from ever feeling repetitive. Some rounds turned into complete madness, with spies sneaking through defenses, medics healing entire pushes, and engineers building dangerous sentry nests around objectives. I also liked how easy the game was to understand while still rewarding teamwork and smart class combinations at higher levels. The cartoon art style helped the game age much better than many shooters from the same era, and the animations added charm to almost every fight. Even after countless matches, the gameplay still felt fresh whenever I returned. This game easily stands tall in my masterpiece tier. Guild Wars 2 has reasons to wander into random areas because the world always seemed packed with events, hidden paths, and huge group activities happening around me. I liked how exploration felt rewarding, even when I ignored the main story for hours just to complete maps and join massive battles with other players. The combat also stayed active enough that I was constantly dodging attacks, switching abilities, and changing weapons depending on the situation. I spent plenty of time experimenting with different classes too, since each one felt surprisingly flexible instead of locking me into a single role forever. One thing I appreciated most was how relaxed the progression felt, because the game never pressured me into grinding endlessly just to stay relevant. The huge world, fun exploration, and rewarding MMO systems place this game nicely into my excellent tier. War Thunder made me feel like every air battle could suddenly turn into complete chaos once multiple planes started chasing each other across the map at the same time. I spent most of my hours flying aircraft because the dogfights felt faster, more intense, and much more satisfying than the tank combat. I also liked how different modes changed the experience since arcade battles were easier to jump into, while realistic matches punished mistakes far more heavily. The sound design added a lot during combat too, because hearing engines roar nearby or bullets tearing through the air made battles feel far more immersive. Outside of matches though, the menus and upgrade systems were difficult to understand early on. I kept spending extra time figuring out research trees and vehicle upgrades before things finally clicked. Even with those frustrations, this still earns a place in my good tier. Crusader Kings II turned nearly every campaign into a chain of political disasters, betrayals, and family problems that I somehow had to survive through careful planning. I spent a huge amount of time arranging marriages, dealing with rebellious nobles, and trying to secure stable heirs before everything collapsed after a ruler's death. What made the game so interesting was how unpredictable every situation became once different kingdoms, religions, and rival families started interfering with my plans. I also liked that success was never only about military strength, because diplomacy and smart decisions often mattered far more than direct battles. The learning curve definitely felt intimidating during the opening hours, but understanding the deeper systems became extremely rewarding later on. The freedom, strategy depth, and endless medieval drama easily placed this game into my excellent tier. Fortnite turned into a much better experience for me once I stopped worrying about winning every single match and started enjoying the chaos happening during each round instead. I liked how every game could suddenly shift from quiet looting to complete panic once another squad appeared nearby or the storm forced everyone together. The building system definitely created a huge skill gap, but the zero build mode made the game much easier for me to casually return to after long breaks. I also enjoyed how movement kept improving with features like sliding and mantling because fights felt smoother and more active afterward. Even though some matches dragged during slower moments across the map, the tense final circles still created exciting finishes nearly every time. The variety, replay value, and constant updates place this game easily into my excellent tier. Dota 2 felt almost impossible to understand during my first several hours because every match introduced new heroes, abilities, item builds, and strategies faster than I could properly process them. Once I slowly learned the basics, though, the game became one of the most satisfying competitive experiences I've played. I liked how every decision mattered, from choosing the right fights to managing resources and reacting to enemy heroes during tense late-game moments. Matches rarely played out the same way twice since different team compositions completely changed the flow of battles. I also appreciated that every hero was unlocked from the beginning, which made the game feel fair despite its massive learning curve. Even after spending countless hours with it, I still felt like there were deeper strategies left for me to discover. The strategy depth and endless replay value place this game in my masterpiece tier. Genshin Impact constantly led me away from whatever objective I was supposed to be following because the world kept tempting me with hidden puzzles, secret paths, enemy camps, and treasure scattered everywhere. I spent a huge amount of time simply exploring different regions instead of progressing through the story missions right away. The combat also stayed interesting thanks to the elemental system, since switching between characters created powerful combinations during battles. I enjoyed testing different party setups and seeing how certain abilities work together against stronger enemies and bosses. The music and colorful environments made traveling across the map feel relaxing even during long grinding sessions. While the later progression became slower and the gacha mechanics occasionally annoyed me, I still kept returning because the exploration loop remained addictive for dozens of hours. This game easily earns a place in my great tier. The finals felt completely different from most online shooters I've played because matches could change instantly once walls exploded and entire floors started collapsing around everyone. I liked how the objective-focused gameplay forced teams into constant action instead of letting players camp in safe spots for easy kills. The gadgets and movement options also added a lot of variety since players could swing across buildings, break through ceilings, or create unexpected entry points during fights. Playing with friends made the teamwork even more satisfying because coordinated attacks and defensive setups often decided close matches. I also enjoyed the flashy game show atmosphere since the announcers and presentation style gave every round extra energy without becoming too distracting. While some balancing problems still annoyed me occasionally, the destruction system and non-stop chaos easily pushed this game into my excellent tier. Quake Champions turned incredibly intense once matches started because players were constantly jumping, strafing, and flying across arenas while fighting over powerful weapons. I spent a lot of time learning movement tricks, map routes, and weapon spawns, since quick reactions alone were not enough to survive against experienced players. I also liked how the different champions added extra abilities without removing the classic arena shooter style underneath the gameplay. Every weapon had a useful role depending on the situation, especially during close rocket fights or long-range railgun battles. Matches stayed highly competitive because mistakes were punished almost immediately, and there was barely any time to slow down during combat. Even though the player base felt smaller than other shooters, the speed, movement, and non-stop action still kept me returning often. This game settles into my good tier. That's my ranking of the free games I've played. Thanks for your time, and I'll see you in the next one.